Hello, everybody. It is very nice to be back here. I was here 8 years ago, and I showed a slideshow that time of a trip that I took to beautiful Mount Airy Lodge. I appreciate the rumble of laughter, so who wants to sing us the jingle for beautiful Mount Airy Lodge? Everybody not from the tri-state area will be confused, but who wants to give it a go? Perfect. Well done. Yes, so Mount Airy Lodge was a resort in the Poconos. It was supposed to be the most romantic place in the history of the world. And the commercials played incessantly on TV, even during cartoons. So it brainwashed a generation of children to think this was what marriage was. You ate lobster in a bikini in front of a fireplace, and you played tennis, and you were madly in love. So I tricked a women's magazine into sending me to Mount Airy Lodge with my husband, and we went, and it was actually really fun. It was great. I caught a fish in the lake, and we bathed in a 2-story tall jacuzzi shaped like a champagne glass, and somehow we still got divorced. So I'm here again now because my 5th book and first novel, Crush, just came out. Oh, how friendly you are. Thank you very much. So the narrator is a married woman, and she has a lot of love in her life. She loves her husband, her child, her father, who is sick, her pen pal, who happens to be national treasure Tom Hanks. And then she gets this crush on someone, and it is extremely powerful and confusing. And this crush starts to feel kind of like this once-in-a-lifetime soulmate, which is inconvenient because she is already married. So what do you do with somebody like that who shows up in your life if you're already with somebody? Probably the smart thing is to stop talking to that person immediately. But the narrator in my book is not smart like that. She refuses even her husband's offers of a certain kind of open marriage. She studiously resists his version, and instead she mostly tries to solve this love triangle with her library card. She and the crush read many, many, many books about the nature of love and fidelity and spiritual connection and friendship. I've been told this is an extremely sexy book for book nerds. So Crush is about romantic love, but more than that, it's an investigation into this idea of the greatest love of all. So do people remember the Whitney Houston song? You're such good singers. Yes, so the Whitney Houston, very good. The Whitney Houston song, Greatest Love of All, was playing in the 80s, which means it was coming out of the boombox at middle school parties where we were playing Spin the Bottle in the West Village, alongside songs by groups like Def Leppard and Debbie Gibson and Billy Ocean, all of whom presented very different interpretations of what love was about. And it took me a really long time to realize that Whitney Houston's was the best one. So a few years ago, between that trip and this visit, I wrote another book. It was called Why We Can't Sleep, Women's New Midlife Crisis. It came out in January 2020, as a callback to the first speaker. So it was a nonfiction book, and it was about how midlife was different for our generation, I'm Generation X, versus our mothers and grandmothers. And I argue in the book that one difference was we were raised with this idea that we could do anything. Like, you can be anything, even president, we were told. And then that sort of morphed into this idea that we had to do everything, and we had to do it all perfectly with minimal help. And so what I see in a lot of women in middle age who were raised with this is this sudden resistance. Okay, one last song. The Anjali ads. Do we remember these too? Yes, thank you. Okay, would you tell us what somebody sing a little bit. Wow. Oh my God, that was so good. Yeah. You bring home the bacon, you fry it up in the pan, you never let him forget he's a man. Fabulous. Who wouldn't want this life, right? So this was sold to us as a kind of a prize. So a lot of women in midlife, it starts to dawn on us that this was maybe not, the wonderful future that we were promised. In fact, it was perhaps some sort of conspiracy to make us do everything. So, a midlife awakening does not always lead to divorce, although I think it is telling that 69% of divorces are initiated by women, and the median age of a first divorce is 40. Yes, so interesting, right? It's educational. So when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I really expected my 40s to be very calm. I thought I would have to go to Mount Airy Lodge for excitement, because everything would be so placid and settled and steady. And instead, what I found in my 40s was this run of intense experiences. So in a very short span of time in the past few years, my father died, my grandmother died, my father-in-law died, I got divorced, I moved for the first time in 20 years, my youngest kid left for college, and like 10 other things, right? So it was so much going on. But at the same time, I kind of felt that like all the grief I was experiencing made room for equal amounts of love. So I found myself also feeling more creative than I'd ever been, and more full of enthusiasm for life and my friendships, and more like myself. So anyway, this book, it's a novel, but the narrator is, a little bit like me, I would say, and she is grappling with some of these same things. So anyway, she decides that she wants these other things, and she has not really let herself have things in a very long time. And so she does, and she really changes and grows and blows everything up completely. So I had a similar experience. I wound up having this sort of epiphany in midlife and thinking, wait a minute, why have I been doing everything for everybody all this time? What would happen if I just did what I want? So one thing I really wanted to do was spend more time with my friends and with the children in my life. And so in the fall, I took my best friend and her 13-year-old daughter to the Taylor Swift concert. Yes, you should be jealous. It was really, really good. So anyway, we were there in New Orleans, and it was one of the last stops of her U.S. tour. And as my goddaughter glued sequins and a little heart around her eye, I asked my best friend, Asia, best friend of 40 years, what she was seeing in her clients, because she's the therapist. And I said, what are you seeing in women our age? And she said, oh, so many of them are saying, I did not work this hard for this long to not get to do what I want. They're saying that you can't ask me to do everything and not also want everything. And she said a lot of people might see that as a midlife crisis, but she saw it as a kind of coming of age. So at the show, Taylor Swift said this thing that I cannot stop thinking about. And I mean, there are many things, but one in particular was she said she took these things that had happened to her, these relationships and all of this drama, and she transformed it into songs. And so people ask her what the songs are about, and she says, well, now they're about singing them with you. So the songs stop being about whatever it was that was so hard, and they suddenly start being about this experience that we were all having in that arena of singing the songs together. So I've had sort of a parallel experience in some ways to having this book, Crush, come out. So I took all of this grief and love and death and passion and everything else, and I kind of like wrapped it up in this book. I put it in between the covers and like threw it out into the world, and it was the most liberating thing that's ever happened to me. So tonight is the last night of my 11-city book tour. Yesterday I turned... Thank you very much. And yesterday I turned 49. You guys are really, really, really nice. So in so many ways, my life is more fulfilling than I would say it's ever been. And while I still try to love everyone around me well, I don't prioritize other people's comfort instead of my own happiness. My mantra is the Dolly Parton line: figure out who you are and do it on purpose. So I think this is probably a Dolly Parton crowd, so I will share one other Dolly Parton joke that you probably know, which is people always asked her, do you mind all the dumb blonde jokes that you get? And she said, oh, not at all. I don't mind them because I know I'm not dumb. And I also know I'm not really blonde. Yes, for Dolly. She's so wonderful. We love her. And she also is an amazing, yes, Dolly. She also does so much for children in terms of literacy and books, and so does everybody who's part of this organization. So it's a good cause you're here for. They just do so much work with the bookmobiles and all of it, and children's literacy. So yes, they like Dolly Parton. Anyway, so happily, I feel like I've noticed that a lot of people in the younger generations are maybe better than at least we were at listening to ourselves. So they're just better at it in so many ways. And this was illustrated for me because after the Taylor Swift show, my friend Asia and Izumi and I were all like counting friendship bracelets, of which I have a lot if you need any. And so we were at our hotel, like looking through everything, and the question arose: does Izumi have to go to school tomorrow? And Asia said, I think you have straight A's, so you can do whatever you want. And I thought, what a good bit of advice. I totally agreed, and I thought maybe there's something in that for all of us, that there is some kind of freedom available if we realize that Whitney Houston is the best, and that the greatest love of all is not necessarily found in a marriage or in a crush or in a 2-story champagne glass jacuzzi tub, but it's in what Whitney Houston said, which is learning to love ourselves. So in Crush, the narrator's husband says to her at one point, you're selfish now. This is a snapback after a lifetime of being a good girl. You want everything, and you feel like you deserve it. And he says it like it's a bad thing. That's the end. Thank you so much.